Special thank you to my YouTube members and patrons for supporting the channel and supporting my content. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another subreddit video. Today we are going to be returning once again to r/MaliciousCompliance. This is a subreddit dedicated to people being told to do something that they don't want to do and doing it, but in a very literal sense, and perhaps not in the way that the person asking them to do it would have wanted. Let's just say that. Very quickly before we begin, I just wanted to mention that as always, I will be live on Thursday over at my Twitch at 7 PM UK time. I stream every Thursday and it's always a good time. Monster Hunter Rise is out now, so we'll probably be playing that most weeks because I am obsessed with Monster Hunter games. So do come check that out. It's always a good time. It's always fun. So yeah, other than that, let's get into the subreddit, shall we? My neighbor didn't like my old fence, so I took it down. About 5 or 6 years ago, I built a fence in my backyard. I talked to my neighbors and we decided on a good place to build the fence. We knew an approximate property line based on some survey pins, but were both too cheap to pay for a surveyor. We shook hands and I built the fence. It was a great deal for my neighbors. I paid for everything, built the fence, and all they had to do was give me a thumbs up when it was done. Then a year later, they sold their house. That meant I got a new neighbor. More specifically, I got Anne. Anne was from the big city. Anne was a realtor. Anne had flipped 8 houses in 12 years. Anne loved this new house and planned on staying for a long time. Anne had a dog. Razzie was a German Shepherd mix that spent most of the day outside while Anne went to work. Razzie was aggressive towards children, animals, insects, and any plants that waved in the breeze. Razzie also, as Anne once told me, loved to chew on furniture. That's why Razzie stayed outside so much. About 6 months after Anne moved in, I saw a surveyor walking around in my neighborhood, and he was paying special attention to my backyard. The next day, Anne showed up at my front door with a stack of papers and asked me if I was going to pay her for the 9 inches that my fence was encroaching on her property. I explained the handshake deal with the last neighbors, but she was having no part of it. She wanted the fence moved or she wanted money. No discussions. She had spoken to her lawyer friend and was perfectly happy to take me to court over the fence. She told me, "I don't know how you guys do it out here in the sticks, but where I come from, we follow the rules." So I got rid of the fence. The next day I unscrewed the horizontal rails from the brackets, stacked the fence panels up against my garage, and pulled up the fence posts with my work van. About a week later, Anne shows up at my front door again. She wants to know when I'm going to be building a new fence. Turns out, without my portion of the fence, she has not been able to let Razzie out unattended for fear that he will run away, attack something, or get hit by a car. She also told me she can't keep him in the house all day while she's at work anymore. Her furniture and carpet are all but ruined. I told her, "Well, Anne, I'm not going to be rebuilding that fence. I don't want any legal trouble, and the best way to stay out of trouble is to not build near your property." The look on her face was priceless. I thought she was going to cry. She probably did when she got back home. She tried to protest, saying that she really needed the fence back, and she would even help pay for the new one. She told me how much she loved the style and aesthetic of the old one. It was just the location that she had a problem with. I stood firm. There would be no new fence. She never got a fence. She made half-hearted attempts to put up some bamboo fencing, but Razzie tore through that stuff like wet newspaper. Eventually, I sold my place and moved away. I took the old fence panels with me, and I still look at them every day when I let my dog out in the morning. Too long, didn't read. New neighbor with dog didn't like where the old neighbor and I built a fence. She threatened legal trouble, so I completely removed the fence. Dog destroys her house, I keep the fence. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those ones where it's like, technically, legally, she was right. But also, she just went about it the complete wrong way. Even threatening to sue you for not moving the fence is just like, you're not going to achieve anything by behaving like that. If she had approached you and gone, "Hey, just to let you know, this is the property line," like, I don't know, just, it's the kind of, the snarkiness and the like, I will take you to court over this, instead of just like approaching this like a normal human being and going, "Hey, here's how we can help each other out. Like, give me money or I'll sue you," is just not the approach. It's just not. That time, my mum upended the dress code for my entire school. When I was little, my mum sent me to a private/religious school. My family isn't religious, but they felt like I'd get a better education there. And when I switched to public school later, I found they were right. I was pretty far ahead. This school had uniforms. Boys wore button-down shirts with the school logo and blue slacks. Girls wore jumpers. My mum hated cleaning and ironing these white button-down shirts every day. I was one of 4 kids. Kids play and get grass stains. The shirts were taking up a lot of her time. Finally, she gave up and bought a bunch of white polo shirts and started sending us to school in those. Admin had a conniption fit about it and brought her in for a meeting. They opened the dress code rulebook and pointed out that these shirts were missing the logo, so they were in violation. My mum looked over the rules and confirmed that the lack of logo was the only violation. They said yes. She thanked them and left. The school probably thought it was over. Just to be petty, they sent a school-wide memo regarding the dress code. My mum took every polo shirt and stitched a homemade school logo onto them. It wasn't hard to do as the logo was just the school's initials. Admin was furious, but during the next meeting realized their hands were tied. The memo piqued the curiosity of other parents, and they started asking my mum where she got the new school shirts. Apparently she wasn't the only one sick of ironing and getting grass stains out. Suddenly, I wasn't the only one wearing a polo shirt to school. The worst part for the school was that despite tuition being pretty expensive, they also had a kickback deal going with a local clothing store for the uniforms. This store had a monopoly on the sale of those shirts. When business started lagging, the store made their own version of polos for sale. Eventually, the original shirts were phased out entirely. That was over 30 years ago, and my mum still loves telling the story. I find that amazing and hilarious. I went to a school where they changed the uniform from polo shirts to button-up shirts, so I can attest to how much I fucking hate having to wear a shirt to school. My school was like, I don't really like polo shirts and jumpers anymore. Instead, we're gonna send people in with shirts and blazers and ties, and nobody approved of that decision. No one liked it. My mum had to buy new uniforms multiple times for me and my siblings because the school changed the uniforms multiple times. It was stupid and annoying and no one liked it. And you know, at the end of the day, students being less comfortable learn worse. That's just how it is. If you're sat in a class going, man, these clothes aren't very comfortable to wear, you're sat in that school not paying attention to what's going on because your clothes are uncomfortable. That's just how it is. But uniforms are like the norm in the UK, and in fact, shirts, blazers, and clip-on ties have also become the norm in recent years, so unfortunately that doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. No one leaves till 5 PM but no overtime? Bet. Several years ago, I worked for an aerospace manufacturing company. You already know this won't end well. As a setup operator, meaning my job was to arrive before shift starts, usually 3 to 4 hours early. Make sure all the 5-axis mills were calibrated, the automatic tool charger magazines were all loaded correctly, and the tooling was in good condition, nothing dulled or broken. If there was damaged tooling, part of the process was removing the carrier, replacing the cutter, and resetting the cutter height with a gauge, making it so that the tip of every cutter is in the exact same position for that particular holder every time. After being there for several years, the company eventually gets acquired and new management comes in. I'm there from 3 or 4 in the morning until 1 or 2 PM, sometimes earlier if a new job gets added to the floor. Schedule works fine for me. I get to beat traffic both ways and the pay is a bit higher due to the differential. After a few weeks, it gets noticed that I constantly leave early and always run over on hours, so they implemented a new policy. Work starts at 9 AM and runs till 5. You have to be on the floor, ready to go when the clock hits 9. I try to explain to my new boss exactly why I leave early, but he's more concerned about numbers and cash flow than what I actually do there. So fine, you want 9 till 5, I'll work 9 till 5. Instead of punching in at 4, I chill in my car till 8:45 and roll into the building. Wait till exactly 9, punch, then head to the floor. Roll up to the first house on the line and hit the E-stop, which shuts the machine down instantly. Tell the operator this hasn't been set up yet and they need to wait till it's ready. Head down the line and punch everyone I pass, telling them the same thing. Not ready, go wait. I start at the end of the line with my platen and gauges and start calibrating the entire magazine, verifying everything in there is in spec and ready to be used. Get the magazine done and home the probe so the machine knows where it is in 3D space and head to the next. That was about 40 minutes since I took my time. Meanwhile, the rest of the line is dead in the water. Nobody can do any work until their deck passes calibration and is certified to use. I'm partway through the second unit when I have my new manager breathing down my neck. Why is nothing running? What's going on? Etc, etc, etc. I sit back on my haunches and calmly explain to him, this is my job. The one that, until today, I used to come in hours early to do to not mess with the production schedule. I need to get this done. Should be ready to start the line in another 5 or 6 hours, boss. I'm told to unlock and get the line moving. No can do. None of these machines are checked, and I'm not signing off on the certification until I'm done. Anything not certified is an instant QC reject. Choose, run the line and reject $1 million in parts, or let me finish and lose $1 million in production time and I go back to my old schedule tomorrow. The plant got a day paid to do nothing, I got the new boss off my back, and he got reamed all to hell for losing a day's production. Yeah, it's always management that has no idea how things run, but really thinks they know better than the previous management. Like, no, if the previous management was doing a good job, obviously I wouldn't be here instead of them. And it's like, or, hear me out, the reason you're there instead of them is simply because you work for the new company that bought out the old one. You don't know better than them, and there's a reason that a lot of the things run the way they run. We're seeing that quite commonly in the modern day, both in day-to-day work and jobs and things, and also, you know, like the US government. But I'm not going to go into that today. I can't give students a 0 for using AI unless I have proof. No problem. I'm a high school English teacher. I have 2 major annoyances when it comes to kids doing work. First, a lot of kids don't read or listen to directions. Assignment instructions are written on their papers, and I read them out loud, but I still have students asking me, "What are we doing?" That's no big deal though, it's a pretty normal thing to deal with as a teacher. The real issue bugging me is students cheating on written assignments using ChatGPT. I'm pretty good at spotting AI generated essays, but the problem is that when I try to accuse students of using AI, they deny it. They act outraged that I would accuse them, even though we both know they're playing dumb. I usually just give them a 0 and move on with my life, but there's always the fear that one of them might take the issue to administration. If they did, I'm not confident that admin would back me up. It's hard to prove something is AI generated, and these days, the higher ups are more likely to side with the student. So I hatched a plan. I gave an open-ended creative writing assignment. The directions said to write a story about anything you want, and then answer some questions about the story you wrote. The thing is, when you ask ChatGPT, tell me a story, it always spits out the exact same story, about a girl named Elara who lives in the woods. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, there lived a young woman named Elara. She was known throughout the village for her curiosity and sense of adventure, always eager to explore the world beyond the familiar paths of her home. So, in slightly smaller print, under the instructions, I wrote, if your main character's name is Elara, minus 99 points. Lo and behold, I got 1 or 2 kids turn in a story about a girl named Elara who lives in the woods. When I turned back the papers with a grade 1 out of 100, because I find that it stings more than a 0, the kids predictably asked why, and all I had to do was point to the instructions that they didn't read. There was no need to mention AI. We both knew what they did. Edit, for people saying they tried ChatGPT and got a different story name, I don't know why it's inconsistent. All I know is that I get the same story every time, and so do my students. The paragraph I put in the post was copied from ChatGPT directly. I discovered all this when a student submitted the same story earlier in the year for a different creative writing assignment. There is becoming a distinct problem with AI, I won't lie. Again, yeah, like you say, it's really hard to prove that what someone's using is AI, right? It's really hard to prove with certainty that someone has cheated on an assignment using AI. There are AI tools being used to check if something was written by AI, but schools don't really have that kind of access and, you know, technology yet. But it is becoming a legitimate problem because, yeah, plenty of people are getting qualifications and passing grades in things that they don't know about or haven't put work in. And it's going to make, it's going to further devalue the worth of having grades in things, you know? We're already at a point where so many jobs are like, need a degree level experience, minimum wage. But if we get to a point where, you know, even actual qualifications are worthless because of AI, it's just proving that AI isn't good for anybody. You know, AI is not helping anybody. It's losing people jobs, it's replacing people, and it's worsening qualifications for things. It's not a useful tool. There are types of AI that are really useful. I use a bit of AI in production on my videos. I have a denoiser AI that completely removes reverb and background sound from my videos, and it's amazing. You know, there's things like that which are really good. And then there's things like this, which just aren't, and art AIs, and things like that, which just aren't good for anybody. Nobody. But that's where I'm going to end the video, everybody. I hope you have enjoyed. As always, if you would like to support me in making more content like this, then I have a Patreon in the description down below, or equally you can click on that join button on the channel to support me. It helps a lot more than you might realize, but by no means should you feel like you have to. I'm going to keep making content regardless. A huge, massive special thank you to all of the wonderful YouTube members and patrons that do support me. However, you are all amazing, wonderful people, and it genuinely helps so much. So thank you to everyone that does. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and as always, I will see you in the next video. Peace out.